So the Las Vegas Raiders have interviewed several really interesting offensive-minded head coach candidates, and we're going to break all of that down today because I'm pretty excited about the direction that the Raiders are moving in after firing Pete Carroll. Listen, for the past few years, the Las Vegas Raiders offense has been terrible. And it's not terrible because we've had a lack of talent. We've had some talented players on this team. We have the best tight end in NFL. We have one of the best rookie running backs in the NFL. We had Davante Adams. I mean, we have had the pieces there in order for the Raiders to win games, but the Raiders weren't able to put it together, and they weren't able to put it together because they didn't have an elite offensive-minded head coach. And here's the problem in the NFL today. If you get an elite offensive-minded offensive coordinator, you're going to win a lot of games. Just look at Detroit with Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson takes them from 0 to hero overnight, and then he moves on to Chicago as the head coach, and they're back to being a 0 again. And that just goes to prove that the whole success of the Detroit Lions hinged on the offensive play calling of Ben Johnson. And Ben Johnson now is the Chicago Bears head coach, calling the offensive plays, and look, they're in the playoffs and they're winning games. Now, here's the thing. If you look at Chicago before Ben Johnson, didn't matter who their head coach was, their offensive coordinator sucked, and therefore they sucked. Now they have a real offensive coordinator who is the head coach, and they're awesome. This has been shown time and time again. Look at Seattle with Clint Kubiak. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. Look at any one of these teams that is having success over and over again. They've either had an elite offensive coordinator or a head coach who is calling elite offensive plays. So the Raiders now appear to be looking in that direction. Yes, they have some candidates who are defensive head coaches. I get that. But I highly doubt the Raiders are going to go back to that old bucket that did not work time after time. Listen, Pete Carroll was supposed to be a fantastic defensive-minded head coach. In our defense, they were okay, but still middle of the pack, so we weren't elite there, and we definitely weren't elite when it came to the offense. So I believe that the Raiders, under Tom Brady's direction, are definitely moving in the direction of a Clint Kubiak or a Mike LaFleur type of a next head coach. And the reason being is because even if you get an elite defensive head coach to be your head coach and he makes it the top 5 defense in the NFL year after year, he's still reliant on scoring points with an offensive coordinator. But if you get an offensive coordinator who takes you from being dead last in the NFL to being a top 10 in the NFL, best be assured that offensive coordinator is gone the next year and you're back in the same boat that you were in. The NFL today is not about defense. It is about offense. The teams that can score the most points are the teams who successfully win. And the Raiders have been failing in that category since John Gruden was basically taken out by the NFL. So the Raiders have to make a correction in course. And that correction is very obvious that it has to be an offensive-minded elite play caller. Not like Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels is an elite play caller. This dude is fantastic as an offensive coordinator. But where he failed was he had absolutely no interpersonal skills whatsoever, and he drove his players away from him. We can get a guy like Clint Kubiak, who people have said his locker room responds to. They love this guy. Mike LaFleur, another example of a locker room guy, but he is an elite play caller. Now, we do have to make sure that when they become head coaches, they'll be able to manage the bigger picture. But if they come from successful organizations, they hopefully have learned the organizational skills to do the big picture stuff while still being elite at their job of being a play caller when the game comes on Sundays or Thursdays or Mondays or God knows what days they're going to include in the next couple of years in the NFL. So I think that the Raiders are moving in the right direction. Now I want to address something that Derek Carr said, and I had to marinate on this a little bit. Him and David Carr said, and I'm sure you've heard of it now, where they both agreed that the Raiders should not take Fernando Mendoza because Fernando Mendoza is not that much better than the current quarterback situation that the Raiders have. And I've got to tell you, I completely disagree with this. And I understand why. I know Derek Carr would just love to come unretired to a elite offensive coach and play with guys like the best tight end in the NFL and having a fantastic second year running back who's probably going to break 1,000 yards on the ground. He broke 1,000 yards. He had like 1,344 yards combined this year in Ashton Jeanty. I know he would love to come back and play for them. And so maybe this is his way of just telling them like, hey, you know what, guys? I think I'll be available for the 2026 NFL season. So why don't you just bring me back and we could do it? I mean, he's hinted at it so many times. So is it a personal thing of him hating on Fernando Mendoza and saying the Raiders should trade all those picks and try and get a quarterback next year? No, I don't think so. I don't think that that's what Derek Carr is trying to do. I know it would be a dream for him to come back and play and hit the playoffs and maybe make a run at a Super Bowl, but that's not the direction the Raiders are going to go in. I disagree that the Raiders need to trade away the Fernando Mendoza pick, and here's why. Is Fernando Mendoza an elite athlete? No. Is he an elite quarterback? No. Is he a really good quarterback? Yes. And is he way better than the quarterback situation that we have with the Raiders today? Absolutely night and day. But he does rely on having a very good offensive line and skill players and running the ball. Now, this is the knock that the Raiders are getting right now, is that they shouldn't draft Fernando because our offensive line can't block to save their lives. But remember, Kolton Miller was out for the last part of the season again. Kolton Miller is a Pro Bowl left tackle. JPJ was out for the last 5 or 6 games of the season. He is a Pro Bowl caliber center, and any good offensive-minded head coach is not going to do the retarded thing that Pete Carroll's crew did and move him over to guard for the entire year. That was stupid. I think that gets corrected with a guy like Clint Kubiak or Mike LaFleur. Now, once that's solidified and those two are back and healthy, those are two key pieces. Charles Grant showed a tremendous amount of upside, and I think that he is going to be solidified at your right guard position or possibly right tackle. DJ Glaze, I think he's going to get moved back into the inside, possibly at the left guard. And so we really only have like one piece that we really need to solidify. What we really need is more depth. We need guys that if somebody goes down like a Kolton Miller or a JPJ, and it's not going to kill us because we have quality depth. And this is the thing about quality NFL teams with big quality level offensive lines. It's not that they have the top 5 offensive linemen in the NFL all lined up at the same time. It's that they have really good offensive linemen in the first string, the second string, and they even got 1 or 2 in their third string backups that they can bring in case of an emergency. And that's what the Raiders really need to focus on this year and next year, is building the depth of that offensive line and making sure that our quality players, if they go down, there is somebody that can step in and we're not going to miss a beat. If that happens, then the Raiders are in a really good position. And I believe that part of the reason that the Raiders offensive line took such a major step back was because of Pete Carroll's son. Pete Carroll's son should not be an offensive line coach, and he shouldn't even be coaching in the NFL, being what he did to the offensive line this year. So I think the Raiders are going to go offensive coordinator style head coach this year. And I think Clint Kubiak would be interested in playing or coaching for a team who has the number 1 overall draft pick. You're going to get your franchise quarterback, but you also have a crap ton of money for free agency and 10 total picks in this year's draft. That is a ton of capital to build a quality offense around. The defense only needs a couple more little pieces, and we're probably pretty good to go there. So you do that in the draft, and bam, the Raiders are already ready to go to start winning games and make some playoff runs. but we're in a tough division because I don't believe that KC is done yet. I think that KC is going to bounce back next year. They're going to be a better and stronger team because they're going to get some more higher draft picks this year to replenish some of the stuff that they're missing out on, maybe even a tight end because Travis Kelce's days are probably numbered. And I think that we still are going to have to contend with the Denver Broncos next year. We're going to have to deal with the Chargers as well. So it's going to be a tough division, but we need a fantastic play caller, Sean McVay style head coach to take this team from zero to hero where the Raiders need to be. If you agree, drop a comment down below. Follow for more right here on Daily Rumble Sports.